All right, guys, we are now on lesson 2 of chapter 28. Um, this one is about the rise of dictatorships within Europe. I'm going to just cover our buddy Joseph Stalin here and our buddy Mussolini. So I'm not going to cover too much about Hitler. I'm afraid that might be a repeat for a lot of you. So I will let you read about Hitler when we get to that point. All right? Super. All right, so at this point, we're in 1939. We're getting ready for World War II. And we know that technically, on paper, we've got two democratic countries, and it's France and Great Britain. Okay. Now, I know that Germany is a democratic republic called the Weimar Republic, but we'll get to that one later. Okay. Um, and mainly because it's going to change. It's going to change to what we're going to refer to as a totalitarian state. And that's when the government is going to absolutely control everything. So they're going to control politics, the economic side of it, so the money, uh, the social aspect, the cultural and the intelligent lives of its citizens. So when you are living in a totalitarian state, the government has 100% complete control. Okay. So basically, what these totalitarian states wanted was for their citizens to be passive. I just want you to obey and then let's move on. And so, what they're doing is they're getting into the hearts and the minds of their people. And they do this through propaganda, probably through lies. You get a good speaker up there and people listen. And I'm telling you what, Hitler was a good speaker. And people listen to good speakers. Totalitarian states are ruled by one person. And in the end, they're going to be taking away your freedoms. Um, and that's exactly what happened. In all three of these states that we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about Italy, we're going to talk about Russia, and then I'll leave Germany to you. Okay. So here's something that we hear about, but I'm not sure we completely know the definition. Okay. So fascism, and then fascism or a fascist leader is going to be Mussolini in Italy and Hitler in Germany. Joseph Stalin is not going to be a fascist leader. He is going to be a communist leader, and there is a big difference between fascism and communism. So here's my buddy. Good old, let me see if I make that picture bigger. Here we go. Mussolini, Benito Mussolini. Okay. He is a fascist leader, and he is going to make sure that the state is glorified above the individual. So there has to be a strong central government, and there has to be a dictator rulership. And he is going to control the people. And if you dare oppose him, he's going to stifle you out. Okay. So all within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. Italy was upset because remember in World War I, they switched sides, they switched alliances. Well, our buddy Benito here felt like that Italy didn't get enough land. And he's like preaching to his people this nationalistic pride that Italy should have gotten more land. And so people are upset, and he comes in at the right time. I'm telling you, if you want to be a dictator, you got to come in at the right time. And if people are upset over not getting land, and he comes in and promises them land, boom, perfect time. Okay. We are Italians and we deserve more, right? Nationalistic pride. All right. Keep going on here. And so we've got him demanding power. Again, he's an Italian leader, and so he's prepared to march on Rome. And ultimately, what he wanted to do was restore Rome to its height of power. And so they get prepared to march to Rome. and he wants his demands met. Well, the king ended up making him prime minister, and so that's just putting him up and up and up the ladder, right? And so then he's going to completely use the power that he has as prime minister to really turn Italy into this fascist dictatorship. Okay? So you still have a king, but then you also have Mussolini who's trying to rise up that ladder. Make sense? I hope. All right. So what did he do as he rose the corporate ladder? There's another good image of him. He outlawed all other political parties, so you could be part of one. He sets up this secret police, and by the end of the year in 1926, he was known as El Dulce, which means the leader. So whenever you see El Dulce, let me show you here what it looks like. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Right here. El Dulce. That means Mussolini, the leader. Okay? So now we've got a fascist dictatorship in Italy in a totalitarian state. They're controlling all media, newspapers, radios, movies. And then, of course, they're using these slogans as propaganda. And so it was things like Mussolini is always right. And if you're constantly hearing that stuff, eventually, if you're not used to thinking for yourself and you believe the promises he can give you, you're going to fall in right behind him. And that's exactly what happened. Mussolini is always right. Crazy. It says here the young people, 8 to 18 years old, were part of the military. They made up 66% of the population was between 8 and 18 years old. And they were very much excited and expected to join the military and abide by their values. They were fit, disciplined, and war loving. And of course, he ends up making Catholicism the national state religion in Italy, which is really a good idea because then he gets the support of who? Right, the Pope. And so he could even urge more Italians to get behind his fascist regime. So that's our buddy Mussolini. Crazy. All right, so let's move on to Russia. What's going on in Russia? All right, so first of all, there's a huge famine. The famine kills 5 million people. Lenin is in charge, our buddy Vladimir Lenin, and he's trying to rule with a communistic hand where the government is owning and controlling everything. Okay, so yes, the famine killed 5 million, but Lenin is also trying to take control of what the peasants own, and the peasants is the largest group, and he wants their land. So if you hear that Lenin is coming after your land, what are you going to do with the food? You're going to hoard it. You're going to hide it. But eventually, when the government gets control of it, there's not going to be enough food. Because when you work so hard and everything that you work for goes to the government, do you work as hard? No. You're going to work harder if you get to keep it for yourself. And in this case, they didn't get to. People are tired. They're tired from World War I. They're hungry. But remember, this is the guy that was elected promising bread and freedom. And so the peasants are getting really honked off. And so here was a banner that the peasants hung up, and it said, "Down with Lenin and horse flesh. Bring back the Tsar and pork." Things were better with Nicholas II. Maybe not great, but they were better. Okay. And so what he does to fix it, let me see if I can, there we go, is he lets peasants own some land and sell their produce. Private ownership. You can own land. So look at this. He allowed peasants to sell their produce, and guess what happened to the agriculture production? Did it go up or did it go down? It boomed. Agricultural output increased by 75%. Stores could be privately owned. Now, there were some industries that still remained in the hands of the government, but that was okay because look what he's doing. He's giving people capitalistic ideology. You can own your land, you can sell your produce, and you can own your business. And it flourished. It absolutely 100% flourished. And so in 1922, he creates what now we know as the USSR. Okay, so that's now, right now, we can start using that term USSR, and that stands for the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. Okay, and that was in 1922. Unfortunately, 2 years later, Lenin is going to die from a brain hemorrhage at the age of 55. Okay, so now we need a new leader. Now, there was, I'm going to try to pronounce this, it's a Politburo. Politburo. I think I got that right. And it's 7 members of the Communist Party's main policy making system. Okay, let me just show you that on the screen. Let me scroll down here. Here we go. Politburo. And it was severely, so these 7 members, okay, are divided on which way the USSR should go. Should we go back to communism, or should we follow the ways of our buddy Vladimir Lenin? Okay. And one of those members was Leon Trotsky. Now, Leon Trotsky was Lenin's right-hand man during the Russian Revolution. Okay. He says we need to industrialize and we need to straight up make it all communism. He says Russia's only going to survive if we've got a posse of communist states. Okay, it's Leon Trotsky's idea. There's another group in that Politburo that said, no, I think we really need to stick with this concept of socialism so people can own some industries and then the government will own other industries. Because if we go your route, the peasants are going to be the ones that are hurting. Okay, so my next one here is Trotsky is dead, because in comes Joseph Stalin, and he just is kind of like the big playground bully. Okay, Stalin did not like Trotsky. Stalin ends up gaining control of the Communist Party that was in Russia, I should say the USSR now, and Stalin had all of the Bolsheviks removed from the Politburo. And our buddy Trotsky was a Bolshevik. And he's saying, no, you're out, you're out. And so Trotsky went down to Mexico, and more like in an exile manner, and he was found dead with an ice pick in his head. And so they say that Stalin had him murdered. Yeah. I wanted to go find and see his ice pick. I know that's totally demented, but I heard that it was at the Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. So I bought tickets, and guess what wasn't there? A V ice pick. And when I asked people, they had no idea what I was talking about. So I was a little heartbroken, but that's okay. All right. And so our buddy Joseph Stalin here, he wanted to change Russia's economic system, and he wanted to do it almost overnight. And so he's going to change it from an agricultural economy to a industrial manufacturing economy. And he wants to do it almost overnight. Okay. So in his plan was called the 5-year plan. Okay. And so between 1928 and 1937, listen to this, I mean, the steel production in Russia increased from 4 million to 18 million tons per year. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And you can see here from my chart, you can see what else went up. Coal production. Okay. So it sounds a lot like they're just preparing for militarization, right? Building up that military. Now, of course, he needed millions of workers to get this done. And they lived in horrible, horrible living conditions. And of course, if you don't do what they say, the government's going to punish you. And then he comes up with this other idea of collectivization. And he's going to do the same thing that Lenin tried to do, which led to millions of people starving. Okay. And he's going to collect all of the private farms and now say, you know what? It's ours. It's the government's. We're in control. Lenin tried that. It was not working. And so he changed it into capitalism. Our buddy Stalin just goes right back to it. And he probably knew it wasn't going to work. So peasants at this point were doing exactly what they were doing with Lenin, and they're hoarding crops. They're killing the livestock. And the government, by the end of 1934, owned 26 million family farms. It's crazy. I'm telling you, people become less productive. And so 10 million people died of a famine between 1932 and 1933. That's it. I'm telling you, huge famines. If you're a dictator and you're looking to kill a whole bunch of people, collect their farms, because history has shown that that works. It's mass killing. It's mass killing. Now, eventually, he is going to give the peasants one concession, and he's going to allow them one tiny plot of land that they are allowed to own. Okay, that makes it a little bit better, because then at least they're guaranteed food for their family. We used to call that subsistence farming, right? And then he does almost what Lenin did with the Red Terror. He starts the Great Purge. And this is basically anyone who resisted Stalin was sent to forced labor camps in Siberia. Anybody who was against him. So here's another 8 million people who were arrested and sent to labor camps, never returned. So Stalin was crazy. He was straight up crazy. Here you can see this image was before, and then he was photoshopped out. Stalin had a lot of his photos retouched. So this guy ended up turning on him, and then he had him just like he never existed. Crazy. If you hear my dog is like snoring and having a dream. I don't know if you can hear that. It's kind of funny. All right. Here we go. Oh, this is interesting. He was also Man of the Year twice by Time Magazine, 39 and 42. So I looked it up. I'm like, how can this guy who's killed millions, he's probably in the 60 million range, total deaths. How can he be Man of the Year? And so editors are asked to choose a person or thing that had the greatest impact on news, and that can be good or bad. So it's more newsworthy, not necessarily praiseworthy subject to cover. Yeah, twice. Hitler was also Man of the Year, by the way. So originally, Joseph Stalin he changed his name. So originally his name was this. Let me show you. Let me scroll down here. That was his original name, his birth name, but he changed it to Stalin and then became known as Man of Steel. He's 5'4". And then Truman, our president, who ended up dropping that atomic bomb on Japan, called him the little squirt. So, yeah. He's just mean. Stalin was just straight up mean. This is his son. His son was taken prisoner by the Nazis, and Stalin wouldn't pay ransom for him. So he died in a concentration camp. Crazy. Now, I always say, too, if you really research dictators, There's usually something in their life that kind of triggered them. And with Stalin, it was the loss of his wife. And he said, "This creature softened my heart of stone. She died, and with her died my last warm feelings for humanity." That was probably the tipping point. So, yeah, kind of interesting. Um, this right here will tell you what happened in Spain. And then the next part of this is Hitler. Again, there he is, Time Magazine of the Year. But I'll let you go through that. A lot of people will say that Hitler's trigger point was that he was rejected from art school. That was very disappointing to him, very disappointing. But go ahead and read through that. Hitler, I'll just sum it up, is basically ticked off at Germany for accepting the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. You're stupid. You never should have done that. Right? And so he's angry. And so he really wants revenge because he hates to see his country hurting. But yeah, go ahead and just look through that. You get a lot of World War II in English, I know, and then of course you are going to get it again in U.S. history. So I'm going to actually skip this part. And I'm scrolling through it. Yeah, let's stop there. If you guys have any questions, holler at me. We're just going to fly right into chapter 29. Okay. All right. I will chat with you guys later.